Hey nerds, and welcome to Flash, Theories, and Conspiracies. I'm Brian from Good Nerd, Bad Nerd. So we had the mid-season finale for Flash this week, and it was a great episode. It really kind of filled in a lot of the information and kind of questions we'd had and things we'd been talking about. Who's Savitar, who Dr. Alchemy really is, and what their connection is, what their history is, things with Julian, things with Barry and Wally. I mean, there was just a lot of things concluded and wrapped up while still building up the mystery for the rest of the season, because obviously we knew we weren't done with Savitar. So jumping right into this episode, first let's talk about Jay Garrick. Every time Jay Garrick is on the show, it's by far one of the best episodes. Just love him, love seeing the two, Jay and Barry together, love seeing them race and run and fight and just be that team up and see that mentorship that you know really did come a lot from the comics. Jay is a great character, and seeing him on Earth 2 with his version of the Trickster, which Mark Hamill is one of the best things that has happened to this show. Being that character, doing that role. And on Earth 2, we even got him doing basically as close to the Joker as we've seen so far. He was doing that Joker voice, that kind of variation on the Trickster costume. It was a great moment, seeing them together, seeing that Earth, I kept saying Earth 2, I believe it's Earth 3. Seeing all of that, it was just, it's always great. So Mark Hamill's great, Jay Garrick is great, the advice, the wisdom he's giving, kind of filling in that, the Speed Force lore. He was giving that kind of, telling him who Savitar is. It was kind of this ghost story from that speedsters have. So that was very interesting, and actually ties into who Savitar is and what's going on there. So, next, before we can get to Savitar, we have to talk about Julian, because he is integral here. Now, Julian is... He was a complicated character even in this episode. Where he starts and where he ends are very different. And we get his backstory with the Philosopher's Stone and how he found it and how he was kind of called to it, especially by getting these visions of his sister, the same visions that we know Cisco got. Well, the Philosopher's Stone, for whatever it really is, it's also a conduit to the Speed Force. And it somehow lets Savitar communicate from the Speed Force, where he's trapped, through that Philosopher's Stone to kind of a disciple or a kind of a vessel. And it's through that Savitar is able to emerge into the real world. Now, one thing we don't know is if there's some sort of Philosopher's Stone on every Earth, because if all speedsters have this kind of story or know about Savitar, if it's one Speed Force that reaches into all the different Earths, which we know is true from the comics, then is it the same Savitar attacking all the different Earths? Are there different Savitars? Things like that. We get the impression, especially based on how Jay knows about him, that there's really only one Savitar, and he's old and he's been a part of the Speed Force for a long time. So it's kind of an interesting history there. But for Julian, he was close with his sister, and there was nothing more important than getting her back, and that's what he did at all costs. He risked his life, he risked his inheritance, his family's name, his fortune, his credibility, all to get her back, and then he ends up in this situation where he's essentially being mind controlled by Savitar. And he was being manipulated all the way up until that point. So Julian's had a rough ride for the last few years, so it's nice to see at the end of the season that the team really does embrace him. And none more so than Barry. Barry and Julian have had a very antagonistic relationship. Julian just despises him so much, and even once he learns that Barry is the Flash, and this is the thing, Barry did reveal as a way to get Julian to really trust him, that doesn't make Julian immediately go like, oh, I get it now, okay, we can be friends. There's a period where Julian still has to deal with this whole, okay, now I know why you don't think the rules apply to you and you think you're better than us. So that he had a lot of growth in this episode, and it's great that it looks like he's actually going to be sticking around for a bit, because the character's great, and it's just another resource that the team could have. Hopefully he's not limited to this season, although it's possible that Savitar is still going to be trying to manipulate him. So we will see about that. Now next, let's just Savitar. Hindu god of motion. We learn from Jay that he's kind of like one of the original speedster or something like that. This is different from the comics. In the comics, like I've said, he was the World War II or Cold War fighter pilot that basically wanted the Speed Force, but wasn't really a part of it in the way that Barry or Wally are. And he was a speedster, but not in the same way. He would steal speed from other people. At one point, he stole most of the Flash family's speed. Wally is, in the comics, so integral to the Speed Force that he was unable to have it stolen by Savitar. And I think that's kind of some of the significance of Wally and why they decided to do the Savitar storyline with Wally. So Savitar is he's going after Barry based on something that he either happened to him or he perceived happened to him. That's something we're not sure about. When Savitar says he sees the future or knows the future, it's hard to understand in what context he knows that, because being trapped in the Speed Force, you can see essentially all points in time. And this is something that Jay has confirmed. So it'll be very interesting to see how Savitar comes back and what really his connection is to the Speed Force, and by that to Barry and Wally and Jay and Jesse, and what all that means. So then the last thing this episode, Wally, he gets his suit. For as protective as his family is, they're also, for the most part, pretty rational. They know Wally's not going to stop. They know the best way to get him to be safe about it is to encourage it, and to encourage it in a way that they can kind of help guide him. Because he's new to it. He's kind of intoxicated by his powers, and that's a dangerous place to be, and that's what they're seeing. So they want to help him embrace it, but they want to help him do it right. And giving him the suit, and Barry probably taking him under his wing officially, I think is going to be a big help. And it's so cool to see him in that suit. It's been a long time coming since that very first part of Flashpoint when we saw him, and then we saw him die. But it's just been a long time coming, and I'm very excited to see what happens. Now, those were the things in this episode. There was a lot of other really great moments, and I'm not going to get into that. If you haven't seen the episode yet and you're watching this, I don't know why, but go back, watch the episode. I'm going to probably watch it again because, again, anything with Jay in it, and you had Mark Hamill, and Wally's getting his suit. There's so much going on, so much great stuff. But what does this mean after the break? And I think that's kind of the big question. And really the big question is, how does Savitar get out of the Speed Force? My money is on he's still got a foothold in Julian, or they're going to try and use Julian. Barry's going to ask Julian to contact Savitar again to try and figure out what happens because of that future he saw and why he's going to kill Iris and something along those lines. So let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Was it great? Where did it rank in this season? And what are you looking forward to? And what do you hope happens in the second half of the season? So it's going to be a few weeks until we're back here for another Flash Theories and Conspiracies. But until then, guys, have a great holiday, and I will see you in a few weeks. So this has been Brian from Good Nerd Bad Nerd, and this has been Flash Theories and Conspiracies.